Welcome to another episode of Who's Your Band? My name is Sean Morin. Again, for another week in a row, my co-host is not here. So I have my good friend Brian Colburn from the Playlist Wars podcast filling in for Jeffrey. How you doing, Brian?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me back.
And why don't you introduce our guest for this week?
Oh, I'm very excited about tonight's guest. We have with us Jizzy Pearl, who's now singing with Quiet Riot and from Love Hate fame. Jizzy, thanks for joining us, man.
Yes, Love Hate fame. Good to be here. Better late than never, guys.
Listen, it's hard being a rock star, Jizzy. Let's just get that out of the way.
I don't know any rock stars, so I'm gonna have to, go with your word on that.
So where'd you grow up, man?
Well, I was born in Chicago and moved out to LA. I don't know, 4th or 5th grade or something, and then lived in the San Fernando Valley.
Okay, so you're pretty much a lifer out in California then.
Yeah.
Okay. What were your what were some of the bands that you listened to when you were growing up before you decided to be jump feet first into the rock and roll world?
Well, just all the greats. You know, my 8-track collection at the time was Led Zeppelin, Physical Graffiti, Aerosmith Rocks. I had a progressive side with the Yes and the Genesis. I had some Jethro Tull, which I really liked. Aqualung, obviously, and other records. And, Black Sabbath and The Who and Pink Floyd, of course.
I still say that the 3 albums in a row from Pink Floyd, which is what, Animals, Wish You Were Here, and Dark Side. I think it's those 3 in a row. It's probably the 3 greatest albums in a row by one specific artist.
Yeah, I was into the Zeppelin, especially Physical Graffiti and Aerosmith. I mean, Get Your Wings and Rocks are amazing records.
Big time.
It's why do people make the best music when they're fucked up? You know
it's because the mind is open and you're willing to let the things that you may want to hold on to, just let it all out.
I mean, Joe Perry's up in his spare bedroom blowing guns off and stuff, and they're all fucking high on coke and stuff, and yet they made that amazing record. It's just funny to me. It's funny.
And now these days, there's kids that are just sitting on a computer typing beats on their computers. And they're worried about their Adderall and their pumpkin spice lattes. And these people were literally doing coke off strippers' assholes, and they were recording the greatest music of all time.
The difference between then and now is that in my day, you had to do, like, people ask me, how did you make it? Well, 1 million gigs.
Yeah.
1,999,000 shitty ones. And then, you get your record deal and then, things start to slowly get better. But nobody these days seems to have the attention span to give it years. You know what I mean? Like Facebook will give you months, well, if this band doesn't get signed in 3 months, I'm out of here because I'm just too amazing a talent on Facebook. Just check out my likes. It's just, before the internet and Facebook, you really it was more organic and people, I don't know, it was just a better time for music, in my opinion.
I agree with that too. But on the flip side, I do like the fact that artists now are putting out singles. So you're not waiting 3 years for a whole album. And if you have a specific artist that you like we were just talking before off camera about Guns N' Roses putting out their first song in 26 years or something like that. Not the greatest song in the world, but we also don't have to wait another 5 years for them to put an album out. You still get a little bit of taste of new music, but it's good and bad because, again, you can have these flash in the pan artists who have one song and they can make $15 million off this one song too.
Yeah, but that's like winning the lottery. I mean, that hardly ever happens. I think that the single thing is paying homage for the streaming. You know what I mean? Oh, you're getting streams and stuff. It's just, the record companies made a Faustian deal with Spotify to pay their artists nothing.
Yeah.
And people get to get the music and the artist gets shafted yet again.
I remember one of the guitar players from Trivium posted a picture and said it's something to the effect of like 180 million streams and here's my check. And it was like $47.
It's just, back in the day, record companies fucked bands over and took their publishing, and it was just an accepted thing. It was, Quiet Riot signed a bad record deal, but if they hadn't signed that deal, they probably nothing. You know what I mean? It's
the double-edged sword.
You have to make a deal to get forward, but sometimes it takes you out of, there's just, it's a hard business to make a living off of. So if you can make a living off it, you just count your blessings. You just go, fuck. I'm actually paying bills with music. How amazing is that?
Yeah.
I wanted to drop in here because we're talking about how times have changed now. And Jiz, you had the chance, like I said earlier, of Love, Hate, Fame, because I am a fan of both Blackout and The Red Room and Wasted in America. I love both of those albums from that era, and they still, to me, are still extremely strong albums. I would love to know, because you've had experience at both the major and the independent level, because Blackout and The Red Room and Wasted in America were put out on Columbia Records. And the new album that you're working on, that you've dropped a few singles from, is coming out on Golden Robot, which is at the independent scene. I'd love to know what the difference you feel is working with the major label versus working with an independent such as that. But with the timing has changed as well, because we're not in 1990 anymore. So I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. I wish we were, but we're not, sadly.
Fuck. Well, lots of differences. But they have to do with the times. Let's just say 1990. Bands, record companies paid for bands for tour support, basically. And you got to be on a bus and you got to tour and you went into massive debt, but that was part of the game as well. You know what I mean? The record company would assume a certain amount of debt to risk as far as pushing your record and stuff like that. So in my time in Love, Hate, Columbia Records gave us just years of touring. I toured off the Blackout record for 10 months straight. I came back. I didn't even remember where I lived because I'd been gone so long. And, Europe with Ozzy, Europe with Skid Row, arenas and stadiums with AC/DC and Dio, and it goes on and on and on. So what they give you is that Hammer of the Gods, glory, rock and roll fantasy that made you want to do it in the first place. The payoff for the decade of poverty and struggling and eating shit and having your parents think you're a joke, and but that was then. They don't do that anymore. Record labels, if there even are any, they don't give the money because they know that people don't buy records. You know what I mean? So they assume that. So instead of giving you filet mignon, they give you like a White Castle burger. And as far as Golden Robot goes, they're a small independent label, but my experience with them, and again, we're just starting the relationship, but I did do a Frontiers record before this, so I'm assuming it's along similar, boundaries. They do what they do. They don't give you tour support. They give you money to make a record, which is cool, and they market it as best they can, given the internet. You know what I mean? You're not going to get full page ads in Spin magazine or anything like that. You're going to get what they can give you, and your record's going to do what it's going to do. But I would say that one of the best things about the Golden Robot experience for me is that they let me alone when they gave me the money for the record, and they weren't in my shit every 5 minutes wanting to hear demos, wanting to hear songs, wanting to make sure that they made the right decision. You know, the record company thinks you're moving in the wrong direction, you know what I mean? Which happens a lot, you know, especially back then. I mean, the record company calls you and they say jump and you say how high, you know what I mean? Because you're owned by them. But Golden Robot let me alone and trusted that I would make a good record. And when I delivered it, you know what I mean? Everyone was happy, including me. You know what I mean? Freedom to be able to do what you want, and confidence and trust are, I guess that's based on the fact that I've made so many records. You know what I mean? That I'm not some new artist that's just going to go reggae, like off to left field. You know what I mean? They pretty much know what they're going to get. They're going to get the Jizzy voice, the AC/DC, you know, nails on the chalkboard, and, you know, 4-chord rock.
Well, the one thing I think that's interesting, because with Love Hate, I always felt that there was a diversity to the music, where you'd get a song like Blackout in the Red Room, and then you'd get a song like Don't Fuck With Me, which was very much sounding like that song that you would write when you're sitting on the tour bus just having a jam with your friends. Does the new album kind of contain that kind of diversity like you had on the earlier albums?
I would say it doesn't. The thing about Love Hate, and I'm saying the original 4 guys, is that all of us had different influences and all of us had different input. And that's why Blackout in the Red Room kind of sounds like 3 different bands. You know what I mean? You've got your Jane's Addiction, and then you got your Flea Chili Peppers, and then you got your AC/DC. But it's all sort of tied together by the loud guitars and drums and my vocals, which are, you know, up there. So different influences. When you got 4 guys, four Napoleons, everybody wanting to, you know, make sure that their part gets in the song, and you know what I mean? And then all the fighting and the throwing of bottles ensues. But that's probably why those records sound so diverse, is that we were what's the word I'm looking for? There was a volatile brew of guys, and that creativity comes from the volatility, like it does with a lot of bands. I mean, the Police fought all the time. That's why their music is so good.
That's one of the things I loved about doing the changeover from being a musician to a stand-up comedian, is that you can always blame something on somebody else in the band. Like whether or not your drummer fucks up the drum fill. Okay, he busted his snare drum. Well, that's why we fucked up. But now when I'm on stage, if I fuck up, it's all on me, no matter what it is.
And my records are, I mean, for want of a better word, solo records. I mean, I write everything. So I'm in the same boat as you. You know what I mean? If the song sucks, it's no one's fault but mine, or the mix, or the production. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, like for me, it's like if it's the audience, if it's the lighting, if it's the sound, like there's a couple of variables to it, but in the end, it really is all on us.
Well, yeah. If your jokes suck,
they do. Trust me, they really do.
Awesome.
So Jizzy, you've been in a lot of bands over the years, bands that I am a fan of. Right now you're singing with Quiet Riot. You did a stint with Adler's Appetite, LA Guns, RATT. And the one thing I've always appreciated about you as a vocalist is you've always found this perfect balance of staying true to the original band's vision of the song, but yet you're bringing your own personality to these songs that you're performing. I'm kind of curious, is that something that you set out to do intentionally, or does it just fall naturally into place as you're performing with these artists?
It's just me trying to do the best I can. I mean, I listen to the music, I listen to the songs, and I just try and do them the best I can. And that's all I do. I mean, it's gonna sound like me, and no matter what band I'm in, you know what I mean. I have a distinctive voice, so it just so happens that my voice can hit those Quiet Riot notes. You know what I mean, and those LA Guns notes and stuff like that. So and Adler, the GNR up there too. So I mean, I pull it off.
What was your could you pick your worst gig that you've had so far?
You mean today?
Like, is there one like just stinker gig? Like whether it was just like the crowd really sucked.
I would love to be able to tell you that there was just one. I've had, I mean, I started out playing back parties in people's living rooms when I was a teenager. You know what I mean? Playing Sweet Home Alabama and Freebird in someone's living room for beer money. I mean, those gigs were terrible. Those gigs were awful. Somebody puts out a cigarette in your beer and you take a sip off of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, there were bad gigs and good gigs and wonderful gigs and amazing gigs. So to answer your question, there were lots and lots of ups and downs. And I can't specifically tell you one gig that has so traumatized me or scarred me that I can't, maybe I've just wiped it from my memory. I don't know, but that's the essence of rock and roll. I mean, Angus Young has bad gigs. When I played with those guys in San Francisco at the Cow Palace, somebody threw a shoe at Brian Johnson and clocked him in the head. You know what I mean? I mean, Brian Johnson gets hit with a shoe and I escape unscathed. It's bad luck.
Well, on a serious, kind of a sadder note, this week kind of marks the 1-year anniversary of Frankie Banali's passing. And I did want to talk about some of the Quiet Riot stuff with you, namely the album that you recorded with the band, Quiet Riot 10. I'd love to know about that experience and working with Frankie and the rest of the band on that album. And now working with the band again when you rejoined from 2019 on. I'd love to hear about how the album recording went, and then being back in the band now to revisit those songs, as well as the band's storied career, and as well as some love-hate songs in the fold too.
Well, when I first joined, the record, that record was already done, and I just went in and sang over it. And to be honest with you, I didn't know those guys, and it was just, here are the songs. I mean, I changed it and made it a little bit more singable for me, but and then so now Quiet Riot, as it is in 2021, has drum tracks from Frankie that we're building songs off of. And I'm going to guess that Rudy's going to come in and play, you know what I mean? So it's going to be more cohesive that way. So there's some songs being written right now back and forth between me and Alex that, you know what I mean? We're just sort of doing the telephone tag thing. And that's kind of, so that's kind of where we are in 2021. We're working on new music, and it'll probably be out, I don't know, maybe next year, I guess.
Now, is Johnny Kelly playing drums with you?
Johnny Kelly's playing drums for us, but I think that this record that is being worked on will be mostly Frankie on drums.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, the drum tracks are killer, and we're building stuff around it, and that's kind of it.
Very cool.
So along with music, you've also written and self-published several books.
Oh, yes, the books.
And three of them. One's called I Got More Cricket Than Friends, Unhappy Endings, and Angst for the Memories.
Right.
I would love to know, because I'm a big music nerd, and I have written several albums and recorded some albums myself, and I know about the creative mindset that goes into recording music. I would love to know, from an artist's standpoint, can you talk about the mindset that you have when you sit down to write books versus telling a story in your song lyrics, which are two totally different types of expression?
Well, there's a lot of differences. Songwriting is structured along a traditional formula that you adhere to. I mean, you're not going to, at least, I mean, when I was a kid and I was listening to Dio records, all my songs were about dragons. But nowadays, I just kind of write about stuff that I see, observational stuff that songs for my wife, you know what I mean? Love songs for her. And so she won't hate me. And as far as book writing, I've always been like a creative writer. I mean, remember in school, creative writing class,
Yep.
and write a 7-page essay about whatever. I mean, I was into it at the time because I was stoned all the time, so I could get stoned and I could write a magnificent story, and then turn it in, and it was imaginative and it was weird and creepy, maybe not what the English teacher thought it was going to be, but my humor and my imagination can do crazy things in a short story, because you can do anything you want. I guess what I'm saying is there's no boundaries. You tell the characters what to do, they pick up the knife and they start stabbing. They'll do whatever you want, as long as the story's a good story and it's got a beginning, middle, and end, and and it's a good story. It's not shitty. So my books are half short stories, fiction, in a sort of a dark H.P. Lovecraft of way, and the other half is sort of a Sunset Strip trash talk, backstage, reminiscent stuff I've seen, stuff that people backstage in the arena world, what the shit that goes on, basically the good, the bad, the ugly, the wine, the women, the song. I mean, I try to make it as real as it is, you know what I mean, or where it was, and that's kind of it.
Now, the first one sold out, correctly? Am I right?
Yeah, and I'm writing a fourth book, and the other two, Angst for the Memories and Unhappy Endings, are available at jizzypearl.net.
That's that is a great fucking title, Angst for the Memories.
That's great.
Yeah.
I love that.
Originally, the title of the book was going to be Caligula, Fran, and Ollie, but I didn't think that people would get it, so I just changed it. Yeah, Angst for the Memories and Unhappy Endings. They're great books, and they're available at jizzypearl.net. And my fourth book is 2/3 done, and that one will be out probably January of next year.
Very cool. Now you got a new single coming out too.
Yes.
Tomorrow or Tuesday.
Yeah. Want to Be Somebody off my Golden Robot record release, and the record's going to be called Hell, California, and I guess that comes out in February of next year as well. So, and there'll be another single. You know what I mean?
I heard the Soul Mama track that you dropped. I want to say back in May for it. It's awesome. It's definitely an awesome track.
It's heavy, dude. It was me trying to do a Back in Black, you know what I mean? Just simple drums, bass, and screeching vocals. My trademark.
Over the course of your career now, like I said, I mentioned the bands that you've been a part of. And if you look back over the decades, if you had to pick 3 songs that you've performed, whether it's ones that you wrote with Love Hate or songs with other bands, what would be 3 of your favorite songs to go out on stage and sing for people?
Well, Blackout in the Red Room is obviously at the top of the list. I really enjoyed singing in RATT for a while until it wasn't fun. But I really enjoyed singing in RATT because they have so many good songs. I mean, I really Lay It Down, Round and Round, Slip of the Lip, Loving You's a Dirty Job, Way Cool Jr. I mean, you could literally have an entire set of music and not one filler song. So that was pretty fun for me to do for a while. And we were playing, arenas and big places and stuff. So that was a killer time, like I said, until it wasn't. But I enjoy singing Mental Health. You know what I mean? It always, and that I like that song and Come On Feel the Noise always gets that killer response. So, that's always fun too.
What was the point that it didn't become fun anymore with RATT?
When certain people just became too much to take, shall we say? Okay. I mean, I don't want to sit and drag anyone's name through the dirt. That's not my style. But personalities notwithstanding, without mentioning names, it got to be a little intolerable after 6.5 years. And so I decided to leave.
Well, it's interesting because anyone that's been in a band knows that a band is kind of like your second marriage outside of your real one. You're married to these people that you're in a band with. And when you kind of enter in to a marriage as kind of the new guy singing these songs that they had written as part of maybe their former spouse or something, there has to be a strange dynamic to it that I wonder if after a certain time maybe reared its ugly head or whatever you'd want to call it.
No, I just think people's personalities. I just think that a lot of times bands that have been together a long time, they just don't get along. You know what I mean? They just fight all the time. And generally the fights are about stupid shit from 30 or 40 years ago. It's not, it manifests itself in like, I want that song in the set. Fuck you. I want that song in the set. But it comes from 30 or 40 years of just being forced to be chained to people that maybe you weren't, you know what I mean? That you weren't really friends with. And as far as me joining and coming into bands, it's generally just been as a hired gun. You know what I mean? Here, I get paid for singing these songs like in RATT or, LA Guns was more of a band thing. I mean, there was more democracy back then with Tracy and stuff like that. But other bands, it's just understood, it's business, it's business. You show up, you do your gig and, that's it.
Whenever I have a musician on, I like to ask them this question. And it could be living or dead. So now you're the singer, obviously. You can pick your ultimate all-star band that you play with and you go on the road with and you make an album with. So you can pick 2 guitar players or 1 or a bass player and a drummer. Who is your ultimate band that you would put together?
I've seen these questions posed to people before. And I don't have a dream band. I've played with great guitar players, Tracy and Warren DeMartini. I've had the experience of playing with amazing musicians just in jams and solo things and stuff like that. Amazing musicians, so there is no dream band and as far as I'm concerned, I've got to play with a lot of great people and I'm fulfilled.
That was the answer I was expecting. Some people will always say, no, it's my band now. And I call them on their bullshit. And I'm like, you know what? You're full of shit. You just don't want to piss your band off. But that was a good answer.
I mean, a lot of guys, oh, I want to play with Prince. You know, well, Prince would not want to play with you.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just, you know, you get the experience of playing with a lot of people, or I do, over the years, and I cherish those experiences because when you're on stage with somebody, it's like you're both in a luge going down the icy thing and the twists and turns and it's an amazing thing. And as I said, I've got to play with great musicians, bass players, drummers, guitar players. You know what I mean? So I've had some, you know, good times.
Anything else, Brian?
No, man, I'm looking forward to hearing Hell California next year, and now apparently another Quiet Riot album as well. So there's going to be a lot of stuff, that and the new book. So it's going to be 2022 is shaping up to be a very busy year for you.
Well, barring a lockdown, I would have to agree with you. But yeah, the books are available at jizzypearl.net. My Golden Robot single comes out next week called "Wanna Be Somebody." And it's killer. I mean, my record, of course, everyone says that their new record is killer and it's the best thing they've ever done, but I mean it.
Very
and
cool.
Yeah, fourth book. And if people want to check out my books, if they're intrigued by my wicked sense of reality, then they should go check them out and maybe they might dig them.
Well, Jizzy, thank you so much for coming on the episode, man. It was a real pleasure. A real good pleasure. And everybody go to jizzypearl.net. Check out the new music coming out. Check out the books you can get on sale. I think the first one you said is sold out. Are you repressing it?
No, I don't think so. I think that comes under the "you snooze, you lose."
Yeah,
thing.
I hear you. Well, again, Brian from the Playlist Wars podcast, thank you so much for filling in for Jeff on this podcast. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And guys, keep liking the page, subscribe to the podcast, and we will see you next week. Thank you guys both coming on for the show.
Okay, man.
Later.
Take care.